The lighting, color, music, costumes, acting. And I don't know anything about the catering, but I imagine that was amazing too. There's like a sense of horizontality in the whole relationship. Now, can we talk about costumes for a second? I grew up watching some really problematic BLs. For season 2, the budget is not going to be much bigger than in season 1. And honestly, I'm glad. To me, it's so much more interesting to see a character that struggles in similar ways that I have struggled in the past. Like many people, when I first heard of Heated Rivalry, I was hesitant to watch. I saw that it was brought up by Dan and Phil because people really wanted them to watch it, and then by Katya in The Bold and the Beautiful, so I could see that this was a cultural phenomena beyond the book fans. But I thought that its success was mostly due to how steamy the show was, and like I wasn't particularly interested, not so much because of that, but because I was, and I am, so tired of shitty TV shows and poorly written queer romances, and I just didn't want to be disappointed again. But then I saw a video by Valentina V breaking down a scene from the show. It was one of the first shots in episode 1, the way it was composed and how that was linked to the story and what the characters were going through in that moment. And it was done so well with so much economy and purpose. And I was like, okay, they're cooking something here. I need to watch. And you know, it's not internationally available yet, but when there's a will, there's a way. And so I managed to watch all 6 episodes because 6 had just come out. And my god, I hadn't been this obsessed with a show since maybe Yuri on Ice days. I know a lot of people will relate to that. Also because there's like a lot of parallels between them. I'll talk about that later. And yeah, even though I feel a little late to the conversation, I still wanted to just kind of break down all the things that this show is doing right and why it's so good and why it, you know, broke containment from the book fans and then from BL fans, and now the whole world is watching. And I think it's so cool and so interesting because I feel like TV shows and movies are going through a very boring period. And it's so cool to see a TV show like this bring something new and fresh and exciting. Whether you are watching Heated Rivalry for the 4th time or you still haven't watched it but want to understand why this is the phenomena that it is, go grab a nice cozy drink and let's have a nice chat, shall we? Now, why is this show so great? There's many reasons, but I've seen a lot of people summarize it to, well, it's Jacob Tierney. And like, yeah, kind of. I mean, first you have Rachel Reed, the author of the books, who clearly did an amazing job creating this world and the characters. But Jacob really took it to the next level. What both of them understood really well is how this story is more than what it seems to be. Like, Rachel said that her initial motivation to write these books was how homophobic and hyper-masculine the world of hockey was, which I know nothing about being Chilean, but I can imagine. And I think it's easy to forget when you are in certain online spaces or in real life, if you live in a country where being queer is relatively safe. Like here in Chile, gay marriage is legal and things are kind of alright. But then we just got a far-right president elected who Trump really likes. So that tells you about everything you need to know. The world is a weird place where the rights that you win are never guaranteed. And I really think it's important that we keep telling these stories. Still, I feel like queer stories haven't really expanded to the full spectrum they can be because human experience is so wide and different. So yeah, a show about gay hockey players is important and it's political. But also, as Jacob said, this is pure sexy, smutty, queer joy. And like, God, yeah, we need more of that. And that on itself is a statement. It's been so overwhelming to see the positive response gay men are having to this show. Like, I'm always so happy to see people that feel like it's healing something from their past. But not just gay men, I think the show really tackles masculinity in general. In a recent interview, François Arnaud, the actor that plays Scott, said to CBS Mornings,
I think, men live under the pressure of this masculinity and what that means.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And I think straight men can relate to that. And I think a lot of women
can relate to
that
yes.
because they've lived with men.
I know.
So I think it's very special that a show can tell you a fun story, because that's what it is. It's pure entertainment, but at the same time bring these questions to the table and make us reflect or heal or want to be better. And that's like really what I think it's at its core the biggest gift. But we could have had a gay hockey show that was pure of bliss and bad TV. Like I said at the beginning, I was so scared this was going to be a bad show, and it's not. It's fucking amazing TV. So why? TLDR, the cinematography, the lighting, color, music, costumes, acting, and I don't know anything about the catering, but I imagine that was amazing too. It's just very well made, and it makes me so happy. Jacob Tierney and the whole team behind the show made 2 genius decisions when approaching this show. One was to treat this project as a movie, and 2, to write it and pace it to have your full attention, and not for second screen viewing. I'll get into that. But first, the cinematography of this show really blew my mind. Like I said, I started watching it because I saw Valentina V's videos, and I highly recommend you go watch all of them. I'll link that down below, and everything that I quote will be linked. But specifically, I was drawn in by the lighting of this show. And I think we're in a moment in cinema, and I've seen so much discourse about this, where everything is being lit with the Netflix lighting or the influencer lighting. Basically, you are completely lit so that your face looks amazing, you have no pores and no shadows. Why are there no shadows? Like, I just watched Wicked for the first time, and it was depressing. And then you look at this show with its dim yellow lights and backlit shots, like that one shot of Scott and Kip where they are just silhouettes and you have the blue purple background. Delicious. It was so good. And light and color are so powerful. They are storytelling tools. They are there to set the mood. And so you have characters that are hiding their identity, or they are unsure of their feelings, and you get to feel a little bit of what they are feeling through these decisions, like having really dark shots or only certain parts being lit, by having really moody colors. Like, there was something very in the mood for love about how the show felt. I have a quote here from the cinematographer Jackson Parrell, and he said that the look of Heated Rivalry really came out of my love of maximalist lighting and color, paired with a constant desire for naturalism. I wanted the show to feel full-fat, rich, contrasty, and cinematic, but still relatable, something that could defy expectations around what on-screen adaptations of these stories usually look like. Thank you. Like, oh my god. Then he talks about working with Jacob, and he says he is collaborative and decisive and just a really good person to be on set with. The creative process was very vertically integrated. Jacob was the writer, director, and showrunner, which created a lot of clarity and trust across the entire set. Everyone felt genuinely enabled to do their best work. Again, if you want to see better videos breaking down specific scenes from the show and how they were made, check out Valentina's videos. She did an amazing job. Wait, where's the pacing part? What was I saying? I don't know. Then the second point was about the pace and the editing of the show. So there's this thing called the second screen phenomena, where creators are aware that their audience is watching their shows and their movies with a phone in their hand, and their show becomes the second screen. This is what's taking your primary attention, and the show is there in the background, which is why you get like what I call the telenovelification of TV shows. Like, telenovelas and soap operas are made in a certain way so that if you're doing house chores and not really paying attention, you can still follow what happens, and that's why they are so repetitive and they explain what is happening over and over again. But soap operas have like a space to exist. You watch them while you're doing house chores, while you're cooking, but then you can sit down in the afternoon and do nothing but watch a movie. The thing is, now the phone is with you at all times. Now there's some speculation that executives are now asking of writers to dump down their shows so that people don't miss the story and continue watching your show. And that's why we get all the amazingly made romances over on Netflix. As James Hamilton said to The Guardian, we should be asking how to encourage audiences to pay more attention and not less. I think people are always hungry for stories made with nuance, care, and attention to detail, whether they realize it or not. Great storytelling knows how to reward both casual and focused attention. And yeah, we should. And this show, I think, really took that seriously. Jacob Tierney really wanted you to be focused in the show, and there's so many little dialogues, looks, and just small moments that if you miss them, you miss an important part of what's happening with these characters, because a lot of time they're not saying what's happening to them explicitly, quite the contrary. And now I'm on my second rewatch, and it's really cool to see how the internal world of these characters is built from what their body language is before a match, or the way they say okay. It's very simple in a way, but so rewarding when you're paying attention to what's happening. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a very simple story. It's just a romance. There's nothing you need to puzzle together to understand this story. And yet, we live in a world where this is a huge accomplishment. Now, can we talk about costumes for a second? Because I know we're all obsessed with them. Even though they are quite simple, like there's nothing crazy or super creative about them. And yet, it is so well executed. Costume designer Hannah Polly said, I didn't lean much into fashion really in this show. I tried to keep it really grounded, but still aspirational. Like, you need to remember that costumes are only good if they serve the story. And this is, if you think about it, a sort of period piece. I mean, it's the 2010s, it wasn't long ago, and yet another show could have just been like, oh, put whatever looks good on them. We want them to sell to the modern audience, which is what most period pieces do. They try to appeal to our modern sensitivities about what is beautiful and what is fashionable. But that's clearly not what the show is doing. Otherwise, we wouldn't have Rose in the Peter Pan collar shirt or Ilya in the Hawaiian shirt. They're so bad and yet so good. And then we have what is perhaps the most beautiful Olympic uniform ever made. I know we all want to be Team Canada in the upcoming Winter Olympics.
People cannot stop talking about Shane Hollander's Team Canada zip-up fleece. And now, Province of Canada, the clothing company, has announced that they're finally putting out that fleece, or releasing the fleece.
So we have established that this show is well made. But how exactly? How did a small Canadian show beat giants like Netflix and Prime? Well, I think it's precisely because it's a small Canadian production. They had no money, but all the creative liberty. And that is a recipe for success. If there's one thing I've learned about making films here in Chile, is that limits enable your creativity. When you have a vision you are truly passionate about, you will find whatever way to make it a reality. And that forces you to be clever and look for creative solutions. And that's why we get shots with a non-existent crowd that you can hear. And yet it works so well because you can see Shane and Ilya in their own world where no one else exists. Like, it serves both a practical solution, but also it adds on to the storytelling. It's like so thrilling to see to me. And the whole thing was shot in 37 days, as we know. And I think the entire production, like from writing to filming to then editing was all under a year. They even had to move the release date a couple of months. I think the initial release for the show was February and it ended up being December, right? So they had less time to edit. And I mean, it speaks of the talent of everyone involved in the show, absolutely. Because you can make things rushed that are also really bad. But like I said, I think everyone in the project really knew the value of this story. And because you had at the head Jacob Tierney really pushing a story that was fun and sexy and romantic and very endearing and, you know, shot in such a beautiful, captivating way that, like, of course everyone did their best job and we got this gem of a show. I mean, when I heard Jacob Tierney talking about the scene and he talks about writing this scene as an opera, and like hearing him talk about the creative process and what he wanted people to feel, and the fact that he really took his time shooting this scene and that he wanted, you know, the tension to build up, and that he had this song from the very beginning he wanted to use.
Scripted so heavily because I knew it was going to be that song. I cleared that song months before we started shooting because I was like, I built this whole fucking episode. I built 2 episodes around this one Wolf Parade song. And I need it. And if it's going to be different, I have dialogue to change. I use the word sunshine over and over again. Like, oh, I'm doing all these things on purpose because I want this to feel as big a fucking gut punch swell as I can do.
I don't know, I have no words for how cool that is. And that he got to do it, you know? I couldn't find where he talks about this, but Francois said that Tierney tried to pitch the show to a bigger streaming platform, but he got so many notes, including no kissing until episode 5, that he decided to shoot in Canada, where he knew it was going to be a smaller budget, but he was going to have full creative liberty. And like, yeah, it really worked. They have said for season 2 the budget is not going to be much bigger than in season 1. And honestly, I'm glad. I mean, of course, I hope the cast and crew gets paid more. They deserve it. And I hope there's more time and no one burns out. But it makes me really happy that the budget will stay kind of the same, because I feel like it's the only way to ensure that the team stays resourceful and creative, and that we get a season 2 and 3 just as amazing as season 1. And honestly, the fact that they shot everything in one city and that there's no extras in some scenes, it's part of the charm. Like when Hudson and Connor talked about them being like, storm the set, and that everyone in the crew, you know, like makeup art had to go be an extra and walk around the airport. That's so fun. And like, I've been in shootings like that where you have to go be an extra, and it's like, it's a special thing. I hope the show won't lose its charm, and I think this is a good way to ensure that. There's one thing I am really interested in talking about, and I might do an entire video just talking about this, and that is the mystery of why do women enjoy this show so much. I feel like they have asked this question to the actors in probably every interview, and they're always like, weren't you shocked that the public for this is majority women? It makes no sense. Yes, it does, and I've been talking about it for years, and like, you can explain it in many ways. There's like a lot of layers to it, and of course each person's experience is going to be very different, but I think it all comes down to one very simple thing. A woman sees a man. Well, there's 2 men, but we're gonna take one of them. A man who is in a relationship with a person he loves and sees as an equal, as someone they respect and value. It's like, I see you as a human being and you see me as a human being, and we're trying to make this work together. Which is like, crazy enough, something you don't really get in straight relationships. There's always like a power imbalance. There's a fear of violence. There's, you know, the fact that some men don't see women as humans. And so when you see a relationship between two men, you get to like distance yourself from the situation while also appreciating that men can be this thing that you want them to be. Sex therapist Casey Tanner said to Women's Health, "This show gives you not one but two emotionally intense, hyper-invested book boyfriends and puts them in a setting historically drenched in toxic masculinity while totally subverting that script." Yeah, it's like you get to see men being emotionally available and responsible in a way that it's rarely seen, and also sexually respect the other person's desires as much as you do yours. There's like a sense of horizontality in the whole relationship that is so appealing. Hudson also said in an interview with them,
in a straight hetero normal romance, you know, it's usually you fall into tropes and stereotypes where the woman is you know, the communicator, and the guy's, you know, the closed off, you know, that's usually the archetype we see. So I think that it's two men, it's, well, someone has to do the talk, like communication needs to happen. So like, which one of you motherfuckers is gonna do it is sort of enticing, because they're like, so men are capable of having communication, they can get somewhere, they're not completely incompetent.
yeah, I feel like there's nothing sexier and more attractive than vulnerability and communication. Yeah, there's this idea that women can see what that sort of relationship and that sort of man can look like from a safe space because you're taking yourself out of the equation. And same goes for queer women, trans women, like there's, like I said, very different reasons. But to me, I always felt like I could safely explore my queerness through gay men because like it wasn't about me, even though it was. But it felt very safe because you have this distance. Casey Tanner also said, "Women get to watch mutual desire and negotiated pleasure unfold at a psychological distance. The nervous system reads that as safer, and when we feel safer, desire actually has room to show up." What a concept. But yeah, I grew up watching some really problematic BLs. Like if you were on the internet around 2014, you know what I'm talking about. There was some crazy shit going on and really toxic relationships. So it's so refreshing seeing gay relationships portrayed in media that are founded in respect and consent and more towards the end, communication. Or in Scott and Kip's case, a lot of straightforward communication. They're so cute. I love them. But yeah, I think like I got exposed to a lot of really toxic relationships, and these are not perfect. Like I would never say these are relationships I aspire to have. Like a 10-year situationship where you don't know what the other person is feeling sounds like hell, just as a closeted relationship. Like they're not ideals, and yet in their own way, in the end, they come around and they talk and they, you know, like they respect each other. I know I keep saying that word, but I feel like it's such a missing thing in society and in relationships. There's no respect and there's no like, I see you as a person just as I am. And you know, it's not just the relationships, but the way women are portrayed in this show. Because again, I'm used to women in BLs being like the character I hate. And like Rachel has talked about how she wanted to incorporate female characters that weren't just the villain, but actually had supportive roles. When Svetlana and Rose appeared in the scene, I was a little scared they were going to be there just to make each other jealous, basically. It's like there's a little bit of that, but in the end they're friends and the people that see them and they know the truth before they know. And like, sure, maybe Shane kind of used Rose a little bit to escape his situation, to escape from himself. But then when Rose confronts him, he's able to sincere himself and like really confide in someone for the first time. and she's like an amazing friend. And don't even get me started with Elena. I love her so much. I think she's my favorite character. I love her. We all need a friend like her in our lives. And I mean, her line about "you deserve sunshine." So yeah, does this show pass the Bechdel test? No. Does it need to? I don't think so. I think it's doing already so much for us that, like, I'm thankful. And, you know, it's so nice to see a story written by a woman that doesn't hate the women in the story, because I feel like that can happen sometimes. Oh my god, and Yuna, she's amazing. I mean, annoying sometimes, but amazing. Like, the parents in this show, her and Shane's dad and Kip's dad, like, now I'm reading the book, I'm reading Game Changers. I'm almost finished, and I was surprised to see that Kip had a mom and dad, but I understand that they removed her in the TV show, probably because they just wouldn't hire an actress to be the mom if there was like no role really for her in it. But the relationship with his dad is very special, and again, a character that really like sees through what he's being told and can actually understand the reality of what the other person is feeling. And you know, we love those characters. I want to talk about something that really resonated with me personally, and that's how autism is portrayed in this show. Rachel said on Reddit a couple of months ago that when she wrote Heated Rivalry, she wasn't specifically thinking about Shane being neurodivergent because she wasn't particularly informed about that sort of thing. And then she went through the long and complicated journey of getting her neurodivergent oldest child diagnosed and learned a lot since then. So by the time she wrote The Long Game, she had a better understanding of Shane and realized that, yeah, he's probably autistic. And then she confirmed it again in a recent interview, saying that Shane is autistic but doesn't know it. And he might never know, because it wouldn't be that crazy for a man in his work field to never really look into it or never question it. And like, I've seen a lot of people talk about how they would like for the character to be more explicitly autistic in the show, for it to be something that they address, but I actually really like that they don't. It feels so much more realistic and relatable, I'm sure, for a lot of people that maybe didn't know for a long time, or they still are like, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. It is in a way its own type of closet when there's something different about you, but you can't put your finger into what it is. To me, it's so much more interesting to see a character that struggles in similar ways that I have struggled in the past. And that he doesn't know why some things are more difficult for him. And you know, it feels so much more important and representative than any other autistic character that I've seen, because there are some really bad ones. I feel like it adds a whole layer of complexity to his character that you wouldn't get if he knew, if he was diagnosed, if the people around him knew. And also Hudson just made an amazing job. We know he was inspired on his own dad, who is on the spectrum, and he said he has this like tender, boyish side to him. You could definitely see he got inspired from that. I know there's a lot of talk about how there should be more autistic people acting and representing themselves. Like, I'm thinking about Queenie from Heartbreak High, for instance, and that's like amazing that exists. But I don't think that diminishes the accomplishment that Hudson is doing with this role, and clearly he's basing it on an experience that is very close to him. I know it's not just me, like everyone has been so in love with his character and relating to so many little things. Like, I was just so shocked about how well they represented the way like the mind works and how he processes certain situations. And like when Shane is like, you should teach me Russian, and Ilya says bonjour, and then Shane is like, that's French. I was like, that's exactly something that I would think I I know better than saying it out loud, but I felt seen. Going back to Yuri on Ice, I think it was really great that they released it one episode a week, because I remember watching Yuri on Ice. I think I joined from episode 2 or 3, and watching an episode every week and going online and seeing people's comments and theories of what was going to happen next, and that community that built throughout the weeks was so special and such an amazing, unique experience. I am really sad I didn't get to have that with Heated Rivalry, because like I said, I watched it when episode 6 was already out, but I think that was a very smart move. Just like I remember having the same feeling of having very low expectations for Yuri on Ice and being more and more surprised as each episode appeared, and that in the end it was just like a beautifully tender, human, honest, raw story. And I feel the same with Heated Rivalry. It's been really heartwarming to see how this show is inspiring and touching so many. I know for me, like, the neurodivergent representation, I was like, it meant a lot to me, more than I thought it would mean, you know? And it has been, as a creator, as a filmmaker myself, and an aspiring writer, it has been so inspiring to see a story that was made with so much passion and love and care for every detail. It's heartwarming how much love and care this show has, and I think it comes down to that. Why is it so good? Why are we all obsessed with it? Because when things are made with care and purpose, we as an audience, we notice and we connect to that humanity behind art. So yeah, I'm very excited for the upcoming seasons, and I'm, excited on a personal level for the things I'll create thanks to the inspiration this show has brought to me. I'll be going to the Sundance Film Festival next week, which is crazy. I cannot wrap my head around it yet, but I'm definitely going to be doing a vlog and then a video afterwards with my thoughts. So if you want to stick around to watch that, you can follow me. Hopefully we'll see a change in the industry. I know the industry doesn't always learn the right lessons from these things, but my wish would be to see more productions like this, small and dedicated and with new people coming in with their fresh ideas and just like a lot of love and passion for the craft. But for now, I'll continue enjoying Heated Rivalry. I'll watch it for the 3rd time, and I'll continue reading the books because they're very fun as well. Thank you for joining me in this rant. I've been here talking for like 2 hours. I don't know how long the video is going to be, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it as well, and go do something creative. Bye!